Josh Frewin with Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, along with Brian McKay, who's the assistant manager here at Dead Horse Ranch State Park. And this is our Outside and Safe program. Today we're going to focus on our fishing, and Brian's going to show us some different things about fishing here at Dead Horse Ranch State Park and other places around, so you can be outside and safe. So first, what are some things that you enjoy about fishing, or who likes fishing?
I think men and women of all ages like to fish. I've been fishing for most of my life, and it's just great getting out in the outdoors, so peaceful, getting out in your own space, enjoying the wildlife, and just the search and trying to catch a fish. It's a challenge sometimes.
Definitely. Where are some places around Cottonwood, around the area, that are your favorite spots to go fishing?
In the Verde Valley, of course, we have Dead Horse Ranch State Park here. We have 3 lagoons. They're very popular. We have catfish, bass, sunfish, and then in the winter months, we stock with rainbow trout. It's roughly November through March. Some of the other areas, there's Oak Creek, Clear Creek, and Beaver Creek. There's also some rim lakes if you go down around Payson area, which can be some good trout lakes. And then up near Flagstaff, there's also Lake Mary. Perfect. If you're going down around Phoenix, 2 large lakes I like to go to include Lake Pleasant and Bartlett Lake, which are close.
Okay. Perfect. So if I'm just getting started in fishing, want to take my kids, family, anything like that out, where's a good spot that we can go get one of these poles?
Any of your local sporting goods shops. Here would include, here in Cottonwood, Walmart and Big 5.
Okay.
If you're up in Flagstaff, yeah, Sportsman's Warehouse is a great place up in Flagstaff. And then also in the Phoenix area, you have Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops. Most importantly, we have the fishing regulations. You want to make sure that you have a fishing license and that you're legal. Children 9 years of age and under don't require a fishing license to fish. There's another bracket, 10 years of age to 17. License is required, but it's much more affordable. I believe it's $5. And then 18 and up, if you want to get your year license, Class A Arizona State Fishing License, it's $37.
For the whole year?
For a whole year. And that runs the 12 months, starts from the day of purchase, goes into next year, the same date.
Perfect.
So you get the full 12 months out of it. There are other licenses, like if there's urban lakes in your city, in your town, you'll want to get an urban license.
Sure.
Also, Indian reservation, if you're fishing on their lands, you'll have to get a license from them.
Okay. And if I need to purchase one of these licenses, where can I go get it?
At your local sporting goods that I mentioned earlier. They all sell the licenses there. Unfortunately, we don't sell them here at the farm.
Okay.
Another thing I'd like to talk about, when you go out fishing, it's getting to know the waters that you're fishing. What type of fish reside in that water? What is their forage? How can you imitate that? What would make you more successful in fishing that body of water? Also, some waters have different bag limits, size limits, slot limits that you'll want to pay attention to just to keep a healthy fishery. So I have here a medium action spin casting fishing rod, and on the end of the line I've tied it's like a 2/0 offset shank worm hook. Kind of has a funny shape to it. And then it also has a weight that slides freely up and down the line. And that's a bullet weight, kind of looks like the tip of a bullet. And this is what I call a Texas rig. And this is a highly productive bait, especially for bass fishing, and it works on 90% of the bodies of water that you may fish that have bass in them. And in my hand, I've got about a 5-inch, it's a watermelon red fleck plastic worm. And you can buy this at Walmart or most of your sporting goods stores. You can, as well as the weights and the hook. And the way you rig that is you go down the backbone of the worm, and there's a seam there, and you just stick the tip of the hook into the worm and then come out on that seam to where it's about 1/4 of an inch going through there. And then you go ahead and slide that worm all the way up onto the shank, that bent shank there. And then I follow that same seam down on the worm, and I just seat the very tip of the hook into the side of the worm. And you want it to be fairly straight. And this is the end result. And that's what you call a Texas rig, and it's snagless and weedless. And the cool thing is you can cast this into brush, weeds, and it's not gonna hook you. So here I have the light action Zebco 404. I've got on here a small crappie jig with a grub and a bobber. You can adjust the length of your leader depending on what depth you think those fish might be at, and you know where they might be biting. And so you can just move this bobber up and down if you want, make it shorter or longer. I'm just going to take a cast with this and show you how easy it is to cast this kind of reel. So it's got a push button on the back, and you just push down on that with your thumb, and just hold your thumb down on it, and bring the rod back, and then when you swing the rod and make a cast, you're going to want to let go of that button on the back with your thumb. Make a nice cast. And with this type of setup, to catch a fish, if you have live bait like a night crawler or a worm on there, or maybe some trout power bait, you can leave your bobber kind of still. But if you're fishing with a jig like this, you'll want to kind of slowly reel that in, and it just kind of moves the bobber, and the bait below the surface has a swimming action like a real fish. And slowly swim that bait in and wait for a bite. When the fish bites, of course, the bobber's going to go down below the surface, and then you'll be able to just do a sweeping hook set and sweep your rod back, and then you'll hook that fish. The last reel and rod I have is a medium action, has about a 2,000 size spool spin casting reel on it, and then I have the Texas rig bait tied onto the end. There is a drag adjustment. Some of these have the drag adjustment on the front of the spool, and some are on the back. And when I say drag, it allows the fish to pull line, and you can adjust the tension on that before it breaks your fishing line. So that's pretty important to make sure that you have a good drag adjustment, and when a fish bites, you get a good hook set also, so you have just enough tension on there. To cast this type, you take your trigger finger or pointer finger and grab the fishing line, and you hold the fishing line, and then you open the bail, and it's ready to cast. You bring your rod back and cast. You just let go of the line with your finger. You get a nice cast. bait goes to the bottom, and you just kind of work it off the bottom. You can drag it, or you can hop it. So that kind of attracts the fish sometimes when you make little motions with your rod tip, and just wait for that bite. Move it a little bit, and just wait for the bite, or you can drag it. That's basically how you cast spin casting.
All right, so something I've done before is when you fish out there and then I'll end up getting stuck in the bottom or stuck in a tree or something like that. What's the best thing to do when that happens to you?
Typically what I do is you can just kind of shake your rod, and that'll loosen up the hook, and just keep shaking it until the weight of that bait kind of works that hook out of what you're stuck in. And then when it comes free, sometimes you can get it back in. If you're on a boat, you can get directly over it, or maybe on the other side of it and be able to work it free.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll get into a branch or a tree and you can do the same thing, but if it wraps around a branch, it's very difficult. You're pretty much stuck. Another thing is you want to pay attention when you're casting. Who's around me? Who's behind me? These hooks are very sharp and very unpleasant if you get one stuck in you.
Don't want to catch your friend behind you.
Or you're yanking too hard to try to get your lure unstuck, and then it comes flying back. Sometimes you can hook a fish and he spits the hook out and he gets off, and it comes flying back at you. So you gotta be careful with that. So this area is kind of interesting right here. It's got a railing and it's an inlet. We have a ditch system that feeds the lagoons here, and there's sort of a change in the bottom of the pond here, and it's, whenever there's a change or different types of structure, sometimes it attracts fish, and it could be a good spot. Could be a bass in there. So I'm throwing a Texas rig, like a 6-inch plastic worm, Berkeley power bait. These baits you can buy at your local sporting goods shop, and they have scent, so they smell, and they have taste. So when the fish bites it, they usually hang on for a little bit longer. Oh. It might have been a snag, but my bait's still there. Thought I had one for a minute. So whenever that happens, I like to make sure that my hook's not fouled and that it's not going to get stuck on anything when you recast. Kind of wait for that bite and drag that worm, hop that worm, move it, give it some life, some action. And when you pause in between, you're kind of waiting for that bite. When you feel the bite, you want to make sure you reel in your slack, and then you give it a good pull, a good hook set. And you'll catch that fish. When I'm fishing this bait, I can kind of feel the bottom. I can feel obstacles that it's running into. And then over time, you'll learn what the difference is. If you're dragging it over a tree branch or if it's a fish bite. Probably a very tall order.